This old guy DIY video has to do with a solution that I came up with to mount a GoPro or Insta 360 to a lens hood on a big camera. So a buddy of mine who does some exceptional photography was looking for a way to put a GoPro 360 or an Insta 360 on the hood of his camera. And the solution he saw online looked like a piece of double-sided sticky tape that was designed to be put on a helmet, and it looks like it's a one-time use deal. He didn't necessarily want to have a mount for the Insta 360 on his hood all the time, but he asked me if I had a solution that would be bulletproof, so his $200 or $300 360 wouldn't go flying, and something that he could have more faith in than a piece of double-sided sticky tape with a 1/4 thread on it. And this is what I came up with. So if you'd like to see how this thing is put together, please watch the rest of the video. This old guy DIY video has to do with making a freelance engineered technique for a person to support a GoPro 360 on the end of his camera. So a friend of mine has this fancy camera, and this is a sunshade that goes on the end of it. He said he'd like to be able to put a GoPro 360 on the end without damaging this thing. He didn't want to drill a hole in it. So I have an inner tube here that came from a 15-inch car tire, and it seems to be just about the right diameter. So I'm going to cut a piece off that's about 4 inches wide, slide it over the end, and see if that's a good starting point for this project. By sheer luck, this thing is almost the perfect diameter for this application. So I'll continue on. At a recent auction, I got 50 of these semi-mud flaps for $5. So knowing I have that product laying around at 10 cents a piece, every time I'm working on something from the freelance engineering standpoint, I ask myself, will a mud flap work for that? In this application, I think a mud flap will help. I cut 2 pieces off the mud flap that are 2 inches by 3 inches. I'm going to put the 1/4 bolt through there, basically make a little sandwich like that, so when the thing is installed, it does not scratch the housing on the camera. This is the post the GoPro will mount to. I'll attach the second piece of mud flap so it keeps that bolt head from hitting the camera housing. The hole for the bolt itself was a 1/4 inch. Then I drilled the hole on the backing piece to 1/2 inch. So you can see when that sandwich is squeezed against the housing on the camera, the bolt head will not touch the camera housing. Now I'll just take my super stitcher, put a couple of stitches through here to hold it together. We'll be ready to see if it works. If you're not familiar with the super stitcher, I suggest you research it. This thing's really a valuable tool, particularly if you're sewing canvas or leather. In this case, I'll be going through this mud flap. It's pretty heavy and thick, so I pre-drilled the holes. I don't want to break the needle off on the stitcher. This is what it looks like after the stitching. I just tied my knot in the corner there. Now that I have my little chalupa put together, I'm going to grab some yellow vinyl tape, and I'm going to go around this a couple times with vinyl tape, just so I have a really nice smooth surface that touches the hood for that camera. Here we have the finished puck. You can see those 2 pieces of mud flap together. I put the tape over the seam so there'll be nothing to scratch the housing. Now it's time to install it. As I finish this up, I need to put a hole in this piece of inner tube. And anytime I'm trying to put a round hole in something and I don't want it to tear through the tube, I just use a spent shell casing. In this case, it's a 223 casing. 1/4 inch is 0.25, so we're pretty close. I'll take the piece of rubber off of the sunshade. I'll put the hole in it. Then I'll be able to mount this with that bolt coming right through the hole. Here's a shell casing after I hit it a couple of times. But I just held it there, whacked it twice with a hammer, and I have a nice little hole. So these are the components required to mount an Insta 360 to the lens hood. I'll set this out of the way. So you take this little puck that's made out of the mud flap, just line it up with that hole in this piece of inner tube. You set that on top of the hood, kind of hold it in place. Stretch the inner tube around the hood. Now that's in place. And I took this little wing nut and I ground the wings off a little bit so it would clear this nut that has the nylock on it. So we'll put this on. So we have the wing nut set in place. Then we take the Insta 360 Set that on. And we set it in orientation so it's facing the right direction. Then we tighten up the wing nut to the bottom of the 360. So that's positioned the way that he wants it. And this can be mounted to the camera and he's good to go. So the nice thing about this apparatus with that inner tube on there, you know, you can flip it around, you can turn it upside down, you could even throw it if you want to, and that is not going to go anywhere. So when my buddy was talking to me, he said the solution that's available that he's aware of has a piece of adhesive that's designed for a helmet, but it can also be put on this lens hood. And he said the idea of having a $200 or $300 GoPro or Insta 360 held on with just a little piece of adhesive, double-sided sticky tape, really didn't appeal to him. So by using this tire inner tube, you know, I can go anywhere you want here, and this piece is not going to separate from that hood. So I think this will be a good solution for him based on what he's seen so far. He's looking forward to using it. In the course of the life of this thing, if for some reason the rubber stretches, or if you have a lens hood that's smaller than a standard tire, it's easy enough to just stick a piece of styrofoam or cardboard, basically anything that will not mar the hood that would cause more tension to be on this piece of inner tube. I hope this little video helps you. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and thank you for watching.